Dr. Kaplan, my dear friends, last session had 2 or 3 speakers who made my duty lighter, because as in about Amarakosha we say that Amarasimha had stolen everything from others. Amarasimha Papiyan Sarvam Shastram Achujurat, Sarvam Bhashyam Achujurat we say. Similarly, they spoke whatever I had to say also, that is why my work is now very simple. And here is yoga for universal welfare. When I say universal welfare, it means the social welfare, individual welfare, spiritual welfare, and also the universal peace, peace for the world, whole world. Here, just I have shown some introduction. By the middle of the 20th century, yoga became very popular in USA, and then also the physical culture was given more importance. And earlier I have randomly given some 2-3 names: Krishnamurti, Yogananda Parahamsa, Mahesh Yogi. Then most of these practitioners had Kriya Yoga, Pranayama and Asanas. There also most of the attempted asanas only. And actually Patanjali in his Yoga Sutra says only that in the Ashtangas there is asana. Then again he says Sthira Sukham Asanam. Only 2 small statements about asanas. And about detailed asanas, we have to learn from other texts like Gheranda Samhita or Hatati Yoga Pradipika or Yogopadeshad. From such books you have to learn asanas. And why this yoga became popular? Because of the therapeutic value and also of the gymnastic value. Both attracted people towards yoga. Some attempts to study the principles and the philosophy codified in Yoga Sutra of Patanjali of the 2nd century BC. There some books I have noted, that other books are also there, but I have noted only 3, that is also random. Then what is the status of yoga among the philosophical systems, Indian philosophical systems? In Indian philosophical systems, there are orthodox systems which accepted the Vedic authority, and heterodox systems, unorthodox systems which did not accept Vedic authority. Even all these except the Charvaka system accepted yoga for this control of mind. And the only system, only philosophical system in India which discussed, which taught you the methods of controlling mind is yoga. Both the physical control and the control of the mind, it was yoga philosophy. And even those who opposed yoga as a philosophy, for example, Shankaracharya, the great exponent of Advaita philosophy, he did not accept yoga as a philosophical system. After rejecting Sankhya, he said, Yetena yogobi pratyuktaha. Even then he accepts the yoga method, because in all his Prakarana Granthas he described yama, niyama, asana, etc. So, Samadhi, Shatka, Sambhati, he says, essential qualification for a Vedantin. If you have to learn Vedanta, if you have to become an Adhikari eligible for Vedanta study, you should have Samadhi Shatka. And there Shama is there, Dhamma is there. That means he has accepted all these stages of yoga. And the application of yoga in course of no superstition. In course of time, there was some system, there was a system, tantric system. The tantric system, they used the yoga methods, but they used the yoga methods for what? Some sectarian worships also accepted yoga, and they thought that yoga can be used for getting supernatural powers, supernatural. And some of the supernatural powers explained are that those siddhis are there, and to achieve the siddhis and also for getting some sensual pleasures they used. In the tantric system, there are 5 makaras. In 5 makaras there is Maithuna, and for that also they used this, they misappropriated yoga. And that is why some did not accept yoga for a long time. But Yoga Sutra warns against the siddhis. They are impediments in the path of achieving Kaivalya. Kaivalya is the goal of yoga. Then international popularity of yoga depends on the therapeutic and preventive usages in the maintenance of health, the effective method of controlling the mind. Yoga Sutra is tuned to dharma, because dharma is at the basis of all the Indian philosophical systems. Here Yoga Sutra also is tuned to dharma. How do you know? Because Yama and Niyama, what for? Yama and Niyama are for this maintenance of dharma. Everything should be according to dharma. That is our philosophy. And even only the Charvakas did not accept that, because there they could not accept it, because they wanted to have their own pleasures. Their first pleasure was the sexual pleasure, that was there. Vishaya Sukhameva Avargaha for them. And also they said Yavad Jivet Sukhan Jivet Ranam Grutva Kritam Bibben. And if you are taking loan from others and if you are not paying back, there is no dharma. So they did not attach much importance to dharma. Then mind control is the importance of the aim of Yoga Sutra. Yoga Sutra should be studied, not just yogasanas. And in Yoga Sutra you have the philosophy as well as the method, and there you have the control of mind. When you say the yoga chittavritti nirodha, some think that nirodha is the stopping of all the activities of the mind. No, nirodha is not stopping, but nirodha is controlling the activities of the mind to be turned in the right channel, channelizing in the right way. That is why you have to control the mind. And there, what are the activities of the mind? Knowing rightly is one activity, knowing wrongly is another activity, grasping unreal ideas from bird's head, then sleep and memory. Even when you are having concentration on something, all these happen, and sometimes these are obstructions for that focusing, for concentration. And concentration is samadhi. Then to achieve that yoga, he gives 8 steps, and in 8 steps you have yama, non-injury to others, truthfulness, non-stealing, celibacy, non-receiving of gifts. In individual life, in social life, and in the spiritual path, all these are required. Then non-injury means, what does non-injury mean? Non-injury means not only that non-killing, but non-injury means any kind of harm to any people or any animals or the universe. Then I do not explain all these things. Then in the individual dimension, peace of mind is very important. Peace of mind. this peace of mind can be achieved. That is mana prasada. That should be achieved. Then concentration in study and work, you will get by yoga. Then carefulness, happy family life, clean public life. For an individual, all this can be achieved by yoga. Then social dimension, peaceful community life. If you are not stealing the wealth of others, if you are not speaking lies, then you can have a peaceful social life. Then decent public behavior. Now, in the public field, in the political field, everybody is behaving in the proper way or not. So, if you have to train the people, train when, catch them young and train. When they are in childhood, you should teach them, educate them when they are children. Then corruption-free governance and administration, how that can be achieved. If you are not receiving anything from others without doing some rightful help, only rightful help, you should not do some bad things for somebody else and then receive bribes, it is not accepted. So, there is then that you should not receive something. Then coming to the health dimension, you are having a strong body and a strong mind, that is very important, strong mind, and cure for asthma, blood pressure, arterial block, migraine, is insomnia. This can be achieved by pranayama and also yogasanas. When I was very young, I had this headache. Every day I had headache. Then my teacher who was teaching me yoga, he told me, do Shirsasana every day. And I did, and I was cured of my headache. Then somebody told that how can you practice yoga? And what is the effect of yoga? Then my teacher told him, by practicing yoga, you are not doing asanas only. You have to train your mind. How to train your mind? Train your brain. And your brain, your head should be in your heart, and your heart should be in your brain. Can you do that? Your heart should be in your brain, and your brain should be in your heart. Then he asked somebody who went to his side, I am a practitioner of yoga. Then he asked him, do you feel your liver? Can you control your liver? If you cannot control your liver with your brain, what a practitioner are you? Every involuntary organ in your body should be moved by your brain only. I can do that, he said. Before his death, he foresaw his death, and he said, I will die on such and such a day. That was my guru with Swami Vidyananda Tirthapada. And he said, I will die on that date. And I asked him, why can't you prolong your life? Then he said, my body is prepared to go. I need not prevent my body from dying. I should die, one day I should die. Then he told me, Vivekananda was a very good practitioner of yoga. At what age did he die? And also Shankaracharya, he was a very good yoga practitioner. At what age did he die? When you complete your duty in this world, you have to go. Death is inevitable. I did not live for 100 years. No, he said, I will die. And exactly on that day he died. That is it. And I am completing. Then spiritual dimension, purity in thought and deed, concentrated prayer, meditation, best way to achieve liberation from worldly cares. These are the benefits of, these are the spiritual dimensions of yoga. Thank you. If you are practicing pranayama, he said, if there is some sort of block in your heart, that can be relieved. No problem. I have seen some of them who were diagnosed for heart problems, and somebody said you should have surgery within one month. But then Swami said, you try with your pranayama and your block will go. How it will move from one part of from the heart to the artery, and it will go. That happened. I don't know how it happens. And there are such people who practice. There were such people who practiced. And also, he said there are these Nadi Vaidyas in Kerala. These Nadi Vaidyas do what they do. They just touch your this nerve here, and they will say you are such and such on your spine. There is such and such. What do you call it? L1 and L4. There you should do the surgery. Then how they did that? How the Nadi Vaidyas do that? Swami said, it is because of yoga. Yoga is in that, yoga technique. And if you are having some problem, then immediately they will ask you to extend your hand and they touch here, then they will say, this is the problem there. How can you do that? Again, there is another thing. Swami said, you can control, you can make every, say, involuntary organ in your body obey your head, obey your brain. And in course of time, what can you do? You can control a person who is sitting by your side. Just like you are having in your computer or phone that Bluetooth. Bluetooth. Similarly, if I am sitting, if I am a very good practitioner of yoga, I can control him. That is it. Swami said. And somebody Swami was telling, I can say where he is feeling that pain. I can say from here, he was sitting by the side and he said, I can say in which part of your body you are having pain.
Life transforming spreads in a world that needs it desperately. So many of what the previous speakers have talked about is helping to do that. Today I was so impressed and inspired by Dr. Khalsa's presentation about yoga in schools. And I want to talk a little bit about the David Lynch Foundation and its program for bringing the experience of yoga to schools as well. The Council General at the beginning mentioned that we live in turbulent times. There's certainly no doubt about that. Now, I suppose any speaker could say that for the last couple of centuries, right? Do we really think it's any more turbulent than it's been before? I think we can realistically say yes. Technology has advanced. It's taken us far beyond the dreams of a century ago, technologically speaking, but it's brought with it some incredible challenges and problems. Just think of the technology of today, this generation, and how it's absorbing the minds. The internet is a fabulous tool, but look what is occurring as a result of the incredible, incessant activity of so much of our children on technology. And it doesn't matter, not just our children. How many people in this room have smartphones? Anybody not have a smartphone? I mean, the technology is creating life to be faster and faster. Dr. Scharf, in the very brilliant talk he gave yesterday, mentioned from the Vedic perspective, human suffering is caused by change, pain, and memory. The suffering of this age is greater than ever before because of the rapidness of change, the increasing intensity of the experience of pain, and what's occurring more and more, the memory of trauma. The increasing numbers of people experiencing traumatic stress has risen. The epidemic of trauma and toxic stress is taking a terrible toll in and of itself on society at a very great cost to large segments of our society. To address this crisis, this particular crisis, the nonprofit David Lynch Foundation has offered the Transcendental Meditation technique to more than 1 million children in schools all over the world. I want to tell you a little bit about that. Why did our foundation choose this particular approach for bringing the experience of yoga? In Time magazine in 2003, Time wrote in a cover story that Maharishi Mahesh Yogi seemed the most influential meditation teacher of the past 500 years. Now, why would Americans perceive him in that way? Well, one, Maharishi was quite a genius at bringing out something simple and accessible. You may know that Maharishi Mahesh Yogi had an undergraduate degree in physics prior to studying with a great master and becoming a monk. He had one hand in Vedic science and another in modern science, and was bent on bringing the two together. Now, I think there was someone, a British writer, who said, "East is east and west is west, and never the two shall meet." But if they could meet, it could be very powerful. And this was what Maharishi Mahesh Yogi was set on. Published scientific research, which Maharishi encouraged and inspired here in the United States, found statistically significant improvement in brain function, cognitive function, test scores, grade point average, graduation rates, along with a marked decrease in suspensions, expulsions, and dropout rates, particularly among the students in our programs attending under-resourced schools. In fact, preliminary results from a $3.2 million study conducted by the University of Chicago Crime Labs on 2,000 public high school students in South Chicago, that's the most dangerous area of Chicago, found those practicing transcendental meditation had higher attendance rates and nearly a 50% reduction in involvement with the criminal justice system. In addition, the United States federal government has just completed a $2.4 million study. It's funded by the Department of Defense, which showed dramatic reduction in the symptoms of post-traumatic stress among meditating veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan compared with non-meditating controls. And here in New York City, the mayor's office for domestic violence is now contracted with our foundation to provide this evidence-based, stress-eliminating, simple system of wisdom from the Vedic tradition to every woman who is subject to a violent crime, anyone in trauma. The Assistant District Attorneys of New York have just completed a Transcendental Meditation course. I'm currently teaching once a week at the National Defense University in Washington, D.C., to senior military, U.S. military who are there for a year for advanced military training. They take this course as part of their advanced fitness. This is something that is making an impact, and an important one. I thought I'd mention to you, what is this strategy that our foundation has for applying this precious knowledge to these particular groups? Now, these groups are people who are in desperation. I think you would agree. Women recovering from domestic violence, children in these underserved schools. Do you know that children in the poor areas of the United States, they have been found to have the symptoms of post-traumatic stress, the same ones as veterans coming back from Afghanistan? Traumatized. This is one of the reasons they don't learn. Now, why would we choose to just focus on this? Well, if you don't mind my saying, we thought there was a piece of wisdom in the Bhagavad Gita that we should apply. Now, this great prince, Arjuna, in a sense, had everything. I was not there, but I suppose you would say he was charming and handsome and wealthy, and everyone liked him, and he was the greatest warrior in the world. But at one point, Vyasa points out that as he went onto the battlefield and surmised what he was facing, he got desperate. And in his desperation, he decided, I need real knowledge. I need to integrate my life totally. And so his friend and charioteer, Lord Krishna, provided that knowledge to him. Our foundation is based on the idea that the acceptance initially here in the Western world to this great Vedic wisdom will be first for those who are most desperate. And we have a corollary to that. When you serve the most desperate and produce transformation in their lives from this great wisdom, the influential people in the country will be impressed and then realize this is the answer to really the most pressing problem in this age. And that's how to reverse the trend of disintegration and turbulence in society. And that's already happening. Here in New York City, you realize this is one of the financial capitals of the world, the banks and so on. One of the heads of the largest companies came out and was so impressed with what our foundation was doing. He came out and learned the practice himself and then said publicly in a best-selling book, it's a bestseller here in the United States right now called Principles. It's by Ray Dalio. He's the head of the largest hedge fund in the world. He said, I think that this meditation, this particular approach is now the most important reason for my success in life. I've talked at all the major financial institutions. One of the ways we raise funds for our programs is just to offer executives, the leaders of all these big companies in New York, this particular technique, the same one we teach in the schools, same one we teach to veterans. They're under a lot of stress. They pay for those courses, and we use the money to support our children's programs and our veterans programs and our women's programs. And so when they hear the man who's the top person in finance in the United States and one of the top people in the world say, this is the most important reason for my success. Now that moves people. So our strategy is twofold. Solve the problem of traumatic stress and then inspire the leaders as a result of that to bring this to everyone. Well, I'd like to just show you a few things. It's all based on science. You know, science rules, science is the dominant influence. We live in an age of science. And I think it's been pointed out very, very brilliantly by Dr. Kanoja. We have to have a situation where you're able to validate the value of Vedic wisdom in ways that are acceptable to modern science. We chose the Transcendental Meditation program, this program Marsha provides, one, because it was simple for people to learn. Even children could do it. Secondly, it had noticeable effects. They could learn it, they could do it. Third, wide range of scientific research. And fourth, it had a very wide range of influence and effects. The original scientific research was published in 1972 in Scientific American. This is one of the 37 subjects at Harvard Medical School. You can tell, I think, that he has a needle into his arm here. They're taking blood samples every minute because the biochemistry of consciousness is actually an influence. You're probably aware stress hormones are a measure of the stress level in the nervous system. Neurotransmitters are present in the blood, so they were taking blood samples every minute. He actually has electrodes on his scalp. This is an amplifier. They're amplifying the electrical activity from these electrodes to see the brain activity. You've heard about this research before. And then they're measuring heart rate, breath rate, skin resistance, and other things. They found that meditation was producing a unique state. And that impressed the government. Finally, this was in '72. By 1988, the federal government was investing millions of dollars to see the effect of this on heart disease, which is the #1 killer, and it's the #1 expense in the healthcare system. This is one of the United States government-funded studies. It's currently going on in Washington, D.C. This is Howard University Hospitals magazine. And they're looking at the overall effects of this on health. I want to, you've heard all about this, but I think it would be better than listening to me to just see a video that shows some of the impact on children and others. I think I can do it. No? Oh, that's the second video, right?
This is a rough neighborhood.
This is New York City.
It becomes a struggle for a lot of the kids. It becomes a struggle.
This is our school programs throughout the
A
world.
lot of kids in my environment feel like they probably won't make it to their 18th birthday.
When they come from traumatized neighborhoods, a lot of times they bring those stresses here.
When I'm with my friends, I always make sure we're looking around because you never know, things happen.
They walk in the door feeling like they don't have a shot.
Every day I would get a call that there is a fight at the corner of the street, that there is a stabbing.
O índice de drogas aqui é muito grande. If we're not able to find solutions, these children may be lost.
Can I borrow your pen? I'll bring it right back.
Quando é 8h15, bate o sinal e aí todos eles param o que estão fazendo e meditam.
A través de la meditación empezamos a ver que se están alejando de las drogas.
Hemos combatido la cuestión de las peleas, las agresiones.
पढ़ाई में भी मदद मिल रही है, जिससे आसपास में मन भटक जाता था, अब वो भी नहीं हो रहा है और अंदर के बहुत सारे रोग, बीमारियां, वो सब भी अब दूर हैं.
When our girls come in and they are just a wreck, and then they do quiet time, it's like it just smooths that out. And they walk out of the room feeling normal, feeling centered, and that's huge.
If we can get that change within each one of us, the change from within, we will change the school and we will in turn change the community.
Well, I think you'll be pleased to know that we've funded programs and integrated. Our program is integrated into the curriculum, so the first period of every day in these schools is for the smaller children, if they're in middle school, it's 10 minutes. Is that the first? That's the second, okay. And the older students, the high school students, do 15 minutes. First period of the day and last period. It's impressive. We've funded about 1 million students so far. But what's very exciting is the government of Brazil, based on the program that we've done in Rio de Janeiro, has passed a bill through their legislature that they will be funding the training of one certified TM teacher for every school in Brazil, so that it will take about a 10-year implementation, but there'll be 22 million children in Brazil who are doing that program. When we have a major country, and the city of San Francisco, which we've had a program in their most difficult schools for the last 8 years, they've decided to implement TM in all their public schools. When we have a major city and a major country doing this, I think we're going to be close to the tipping point where we will be able to see the widespread implementation of this in schools all over the world. Our goal will be to have 10% of the schools in the world doing this, and we think we can change the consciousness of society. This is the first step, of course, Hatha Yoga, then on top of that, we think in the Vedic tradition it's very important to do both, that pranayama. There are some schools in Latin America that are doing the full program like that now. This was Maharishi's dream, really, and we think we can fulfill this dream. Any questions? Well, I think it's already happening in the United States. Aetna, which is one of the major insurance companies, provides meditation. I started a program in 2009 at the largest hedge fund, and we're teaching in many of the banks here in New York. Our problem is, and Dr. your presentation yesterday pointed this out, we believe you need, if you're going to have scientific support, you need a consistent protocol. The difficulty with mindfulness is it's taught in different ways. The program that she mentioned yesterday, which is MBSR, the Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction, that it is a standard protocol, and it has certified teachers. But most of the mindfulness programs are just, they're taught in so many different ways that scientists are very skeptical about saying, well, this one produces this result, but we can't say that if it's taught a different way, it's producing the same results, because it might be doing something different to the brain and physiology. So that's going to be a challenge, but I think we're going to see it implemented throughout institutions. We're going to see hospitals and healthcare programs providing it. Health insurance is going to include it. I'm not dreaming. These big health insurance companies are already evaluating. It may take a decade. We're going to see it in the military. I don't think there's any question. We're just on a full-scale implementation in a program in the United States military, and I think once the US military uses it for fitness training, that's going to be it. It'll be used everywhere. Those are big institutions, but I think schools are the most important. Don't you agree? Children need to learn this. It needs to be a life skill from the beginning, not after you've had a life of severe stress and you're trying to recover.
For TM, like, what makes a TM teacher? What's the protocol in having a TM teacher? Because the reason it's a very sensitive area. You're talking about introducing meditation to children. So we have to be very sure that, you know, the gurus who are there, they have that profundity.
Well, only Maharishi trains the teachers. While he was alive, he did it in person, and we have 150,000 hours of Maharishi on video, and our teacher training program all around the world is taught by Maharishi on video. So we have what has been called the most influential meditation teacher in the last 500 years, training our teachers. And the system, Maharishi was a genius at creating curriculum. You know, first of all, the teacher's curriculum. It's a 5-month in-residence course. It's very extensive. And then the TM course itself, step by step by step, and then advanced courses step by step, and the yoga asanas taught in the specific way, the appropriate way. I can't tell you, I started TM in 1970. I was an educator. My graduate degree is in higher education. I was a dean of students at a college. I think that Maharishi was a genius of a teacher. Not just an enlightened person, but a really shrewd, maybe he wouldn't appreciate the word shrewd, I'm sorry, clever, maybe that's not right. Ingenious, effective teacher. What takes a good teacher? How to get somebody from step 1 over to here by going step 2, 3. Now this Western education he had, I'm not great on Western education because I think it's really lacking. We have universities. They're not unifying anything. Clark Kerr, who was maybe one of the most influential educators of the 20th century here in the United States, he was the chancellor of the University of California, once said that we shouldn't call our universities universities. They should be called multiversities because there isn't anything that unifies them. You're in a university as a professor, every department is completely separate. People go to school and everything's separate. This is disintegrating. It's anti to yoga. If you don't have yoga to provide a unifying basis to a person's experience, what is it? It's got to be creating stress. This is a situation has to be reversed. Yoga has to be a unifying element. What else could be unifying than the very source of things? Sorry. Could I end with just one quote? I feel compelled to quote an American transcendentalist. I'm sorry. But you'll be pleased to know that Emerson and Thoreau were exposed to the first translations of Vedic literature in English. And Thoreau, if you know Thoreau, these people in Massachusetts, he carried a copy of the Bhagavad Gita with him at all times. But here's what Emerson said. Within man is the soul of the whole, the wise silence, the universal beauty to which every part and particle is equally related, the eternal one. And this deep power in which we exist, and whose beatitude is all accessible to us, is not only self-sufficing and perfect in every hour, but the act of seeing and the things seen, the seer and the spectacle, the subject and the object, it's all one. We see the world piece by piece as the sun, the moon, the animal, the tree, but the whole, of which these are the shining parts, is the soul. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. As a topic which I'm taking up is on good governance, which is a little interdisciplinary subject. You'll find the way I have interpreted yoga is more from the meaning of yoga as something where you accomplish a particular objective. So yoga as a successful accomplishment of an objective. That's how Bhagavad Gita, when we read it, says, yoga karmasya kausalam. So excellence in work is also yoga. So basically coming to good governance, recently the term governance and good governance are being increasingly used in development literature. Bad governance is being increasingly regarded as one of the root cause of all evil within our societies. Major donors and international financial institutions are increasingly basing their aids and loan on the condition that reforms that ensure good governance are undertaken. Thus, good governance is one of the prime focus of governments in most of the countries as on date. The United Nations defines good governance as being participatory, consensus-oriented, accountable, transparent, responsive, effective and efficient, equitable and inclusive, and the one which follows the rule of law. That's the definition which the United Nations has given for good governance. Coming to the topic of Yogakshema, right? In India, the concept of the welfare state and good governance is very old. An exposition of the same can be found even in our oldest scriptures of the Vedas. The Shukla Yajurveda includes a prayer wherein the ruler prays, "Let my subjects be satisfied, my herds be satisfied, my people be satisfied. Let not my people be needy." Similarly, in Manusmriti says that without a proper ruler, the anarchy will result in citizens living in fear, and thus kingship was instituted in the protection of the subjects. This is further attested by the Mahabharata in the Shanti Parva, which declares the protection of the subject as the most important kingly duties, and thus includes the various factors of good governance, ranging from punishing the criminals to supporting meritocracy, from ensuring security to enabling financial transactions, as a means of ensuring this protection of the subjects. Chanakya defines a ruler's duty in the administration of the country in three folds. The first one being Raksha, or the protection of the state from external aggravations. The second one being Palana, or maintenance of law and order within the state. And the third, which we are talking about, is Yogakshema, or safeguarding of the welfare of the people. In other words, Yogakshema, or the welfare of the people, was the ultimate goal of any ruler or government, and good governance was a means to achieve this. But this exposition of Yogakshema, and thus of good governance, was not limited to material welfare only, that is social, political and economic welfare of the people only, but also included spiritual and moral well-being as well. Thus, writing about the Indian conception of Yogakshema as expounded by Chanakya, M.M. Shankaran in his book Yogakshema, the Indian model of welfare, states that Chanakya overreached the modern concept in that his Yogakshema aims at the all-round development, material as well as spiritual, of the society as well as of the individual. It involves the welfare of the poorest of the poor. The Chanakyan state ensures freedom, happiness, prosperity and full-fledged development of human personality. Yogakshema demanded a higher moral consciousness both at the elites and at the common people's level. According to Chanakya, a leader needs to be a Raja Rishi who is ever active in promoting the Yogakshema of the people who endures him to his people by enriching them and doing good to them. I am not getting into details of Raja Rishi, as the same has been discussed yesterday in Dr. Shubhda Joshi's presentation, where she spoke about Raja Rishi, Arishatvarg Tyagena and Indriya Jaya. Also, Dr. Radhakrishnan Pillai in his presentation spoke about Anvikshiki, the art in which a king needs to be, or the leader needs to be trained. So coming back to Yogakshema, the word Yogakshema is a compound made of yoga, which is successful accomplishment of an objective, and Shema, its powerful enjoyment. Thus, peaceful enjoyment of prosperity, that is the welfare of the people, is given as much importance as knowledge, self-control and obedience of dharma. Coming to Yogakshema and dharma, the concept of Yogakshema cannot be perceived in isolation. Welfare is driven by human actions, but all human actions do not by default lead to happiness and welfare. Thus, as the Bhagavad Gita says, one should learn to differentiate the action and outs to be performed, and those action and outs to be avoided. And this division of action into obligation and prohibition is in turn rooted in the concept of dharma. Dharma, which literally means that which upholds, refers to those actions which will cause material welfare, happiness and spiritual upliftment of an individual in the human context. And these dharmic actions have been enjoined as duties upon each person, so that by performance an entire society or a country achieves overall welfare and development. Thus, Yogakshema of a nation is directly dependent upon the performance of the dharma by each individual, starting from the head of the state. When we say head of the state, we talk of governance, and governance being the prerogative of the government, and the head of the state of the government being the most important person who drives the whole government mechanism. His performance of his duties and his adherence to dharma becomes the most vital element of achieving Yogakshema. Thus, the popular saying states, Yatha Raja Tatha Praja. An able administrator who strictly adheres to dharma will implement proper measures to ensure the welfare and progress of people, whereas an incompetent, adharmic ruler will push the nation into chaos and suffering. The head of the government cannot and should not act according to his own whims and fancies. His sole purpose and duty is to implement good governance by adherence of principles of dharma, so that the overall development of his citizens is achieved. Atri Smriti says that punishing the wicked, honoring the good, enriching the exchequer by just methods, being impartial towards litigants, and protecting the kingdom are the 5 yagnas to be performed by the ruler. Mahabharata, again in the Shanti Parva, says that a person becomes a king for protecting dharma and not for acting capriciously. Similarly, Manusmriti says a ruler who uses his power of ruling in a proper way, that is for the welfare of his citizens, will achieve all desired wealth and spiritual merits. On the other hand, a ruler who misuses his power for his selfish reasons will end up in destruction. In other words, an incompetent and adharmic person should never occupy the seat of government. For this reason, the Indian scriptures stress again and again regarding the requirements of a competent leader. Kautilya Arthashastra says that a ruler's happiness lies in the happiness of his subjects. In their welfare is his welfare. Whatever pleases him personally, he should not consider as good. Whatever makes his subjects happy, he should consider as good. So the sutra is Praja Sukhe Sukham Rajya, Praja Namte Hite Hitam. Mahabharata in the Shanti Parva says that a king should never abandon righteousness and should always be rooted in it. On the other hand, Manusmriti declares a person who is weak, ignorant, greedy, without discrimination of right and wrong, and attached to sensual desires as being unfit to govern. Dharma, in its twin role of duties and righteousness, is the very basis of ensuring good governance and welfare of everyone. Good governance is a qualitative term. It can be analyzed using certain parameters which can give definitive information regarding the state of governance. The World Bank determinants of good governance include factors like political accountability, transparency, democracy, legal framework, and independent judiciary. Most of these factors could also be observed in ancient Indian concept of good governance, that is Yoga Kshema. Arthashastra by itself extensively deals with law and order, political and bureaucratic accountability, the establishment of rule of law, elaborated legal framework, prevention of corruption, human resource management, and meritocracy. Modern day models of governance, what we see is that the ancient Indian model of good governance, which can be more properly be called a dharmic model of Yoga Kshemam, contains within itself most of the elements that are present in the modern day models. But the glaring difference is in the fact that Yoga Kshemam model perceives welfare in a wholesome, integral manner, whereas the modern models prescribe development as an activity that involves the accumulation of wealth without any reference to ecology and ethical aspect of an individual and the society. Thus, elements of ethics and spirituality play no role in modern models, whereas they are at the very center of Yoga Kshema model, which perceives governance in a more integral manner, catering to the aspects of society. The Yoga Kshema model not only enables a society to rise its overall quality of life on the mundane level, but also assists to raise the level of consciousness on a universal level. It aims to provide full freedom to every citizen to carry out his dharmic duties, the Swadharma, without hindrance, or that everyone can attain overall welfare and happiness in their life. This it does by positioning the entire process of good governance and welfare state on the firm foundation of duties. This duty-based narrative ensures that welfare states are not a privilege. They are not an entitlement that could be misused the way it is being done in the present day modern rights-based narrative. Instead, the welfare state and good governance are made the prerogative of every citizen, and the ruler's sole purpose is to serve his citizens, and he is bound by the same obligations, same duties as his citizens. The only difference a ruler and a citizen is that the magnitude and scope of these duties in case of the ruler is many times greater than in the case of a normal citizen. The fact ethics like truth, honesty, non-violence, etc. have been enumerated as samanya dharma or universal duties in the Indian scriptures. On the other hand, though professional ethics is stressed in the modern models of governance, ethics as an obligation or duty are still missing. We can conclude to say that there is a complete conceptual difference between the modern models of governance and Yogakshamam. And the distinctive features of Yogakshamam comes in like you can say dharma versus religion, universality versus selectivity, duties versus rights, self versus ego, self-employment versus state employment, and overall the role of family in the welfare makes it an wholesome integral model. Thank you.
I am a sociologist by training, sociologist and anthropologist, and I have been in the profession of teaching for the past 30 years, I think, and I would like to give you some snippets from my experience over the many years that might add some flavor to what I'm about to present here. In addition to my teaching responsibilities, I have also joined as a co-director of a fledgling think tank in Houston, Texas, and that's where I live. It's called IHA, the India History Awareness and Research, and our aim is to revive a healthy cultural self-identity for the people of Sanatana Dharma by providing a forum to highlight suppressed and alternative narratives of India's recent and distant past that Indians can own up and be proud of. Those of you who are interested to learn more or to contribute, feel free to contact us. With that, that's the other side of me, by the way. Aside from being an academician, I try to do what I can to make that little difference. And so we brainstorm, we look at problems, we try to deconstruct what has already been deconstructed by the other. Just in a nutshell, I'm looking at this phenomenon, which is the focus of our conference, and trying to put it in a sociological kind of context. Basically, what we do in sociology is we explore the strong links between the individual and society, as well as the individual in society. In other words, we believe or we think that that to understand one person's life, or you read that person's autobiography, or if you have understood the life of one man, then you have read the biography of that person. But beyond the individual, when you look at the collectivity, because we live in collectivity for most part, we have historically, it is society. We make up what we call a social system, and the story of the society, it's greater than a biography. It is what you call history. So we see this connection between the life, the story of one person and the story of the society. And the point is that the two are in constant interaction and mutually influencing one another, one shaping the other, one adding to the other. So there is indeed a dynamic relationship between the two, and that remains the focus of social theory, which is basically what we try to do in sociology. Being social science, we try to theorize, or we attempt to explain an observed phenomenon. Now, historically, we have looked at the extent to which the societal, external societal forces have shaped the life chances of individuals who make up this collectivity called society. But the more we looked at it, we also began to discover, again, a dynamic relationship between social structures and individual. And what it does is that it shows us that the individual, that the smallest unit, is indeed an active agency that interacts with the powerful social structures, be they institutions or the statuses or any social entity that you can think of in social structure. The individual, the active agency, interacts with the social structures and thereby leading to the creation of what you call the processes called structuration that leads to the formation of new structures in society. So we see the individual as an active agent to influence existing structures even, and therefore we can conclude that the individual does indeed have some transformative powers. And this interaction between the two leads to formation of new structures, and I shall break it down in the next few slides what we mean by the social structures. If you look at present society, we see that the entire social system consisting of its culture, not just the people who make up this collectivity, but the culture that makes society possible, the two are inseparable. That itself has a structure at many tiers that includes our beliefs, our social norms, our worldviews, the various social institutions that we have created that are enduring. But beneath all of that, you also see at the infrastructural level, you also see a certain arrangement that makes living possible in that particular system. If we were to look at the United States very clearly and without any hesitation, we can say that there is the capitalist mode of arrangement, and therefore it follows that anything that is built upon that infrastructural foundation, the structures and the superstructures, what you call our beliefs or faith or any other expressions, cultural expressions, we see that all those elements do correspond perfectly, and the idea is for all those elements together to support and reinforce the infrastructure. That's what keeps the system going. And in very plain language, we have been preoccupied for centuries in the business of generating wealth. Right? So every action then actually amounts to facilitating and strengthening that infrastructural relationship. And the present culture, we very clearly see that it has led to, from where we started, you look at the United States as a nation, as a society, to 400 years old, if you examine the puritanical ideas, which said plain living and high thinking, simple living and high thinking. But in 400 years, we may have moved 180 degrees to the other end, and today we are actually engaging in high living and no thinking. It's a reversal, near reversal. And a succinct term to describe that is what we call hyper-consumerism. It's a consumerist culture which indeed supports the infrastructural foundations. Now if you look, that's the economic institution supports it, part of social structure. Now you go to other social institutions, you take religion. Again, you see that we can potentially find a rather unholy link, relationship, even religion, something that is considered by most as holy and noble and out of this world, but at the institutional level as part of social structure, you do see that there is indeed an unholy link between religion and economy, because it takes us back to the model that I just described, that even our belief systems, no matter how supernatural, no matter how out of this world it may be all talk about God Almighty, the miracle worker, even then, those beliefs should ultimately come to support the infrastructure. So if there is any deviation suspected, it is going to be resisted. But I'm not therefore saying or even implying that religion has always led societies in the wrong direction. To the contrary, if you look at the history of Europe since the Crescendum, you will see that the Protestant belief system has played a very powerful role in the economic prosperity of Europe. And much before that, even after the fall of the Roman Empire, with the inception of the the Catholic religion, you will see that the very inception of religion as an organized polity has managed to discipline people as a collectivity. This has played historically a very powerful role in shaping the behaviors of the people to include economic behavior. So the idea is that the belief system must reinforce infrastructure. I'm nowhere near finished, but I'll cut out some slides. So what happens in situations is that the individual refinement, which Sanatana Dharma at great length talks about, the inner purification and refinement, and the freedom to think for oneself rather than being constrained or rather than being pushed into a very coercive cultural system, what happens is that those tendencies will have to be resisted. It is okay to create a licentious social system where people can live licentious lifestyles, but as long as they don't experience true freedom, because there is a big difference between licentiousness and freedom. Freedom is the ability to say no to the things that you understand to be wrong, whereas licentiousness is simply being able to do what one feels like doing. So with the enforcement of religion, you will see that it made possible the surrender to a higher authority. And then it appeared in the form of a personified higher being. Therefore, religion finds it very effortless to appeal to the emotions of the people, because you bring in the idea of the supernatural. And that is quite different from the Upanishadic wisdom that the Indic system has contributed to world civilization. Excuse me. And so, as societies evolve, and we justify the existence of religion because as societies evolve, that moral enforcement becomes necessary because we have become far too numerous. Social control is necessary. And thus, religion can be seen as a direct outcome of such an imperative. Now, if you look at the Indian scene, I'm sorry, and before I go to the Indian, so the first conclusion I would just make is in the form of theorizing, is that one may say that the strength of a link between organized religion and political system where governance comes in and control, that it may be directly correlated to the likelihood of conquest through violent means. So the state-sanctioned moral enforcement in many cases is religion. That agency can justify even violent acts in the form of wars and conquests. Now, returning to pure sociology, if we want to see violence in the context of discussion of world peace, deviance, sociologists say that it is relative. Crime is relative, violence is relative. It is relative to time, space, person, situations. Therefore, our propensities or proclivities or vasanas in Sanskrit They are, like deviance, a relative phenomenon. What is considered deviant in one system may not be considered deviant in another system. So the concept of deviance then is, deviance simply means a violation of the accepted social norms. So the concept of deviance, this is the most important thing, it is further conceptualized as having two varieties here. One is impulsive deviance and the other is intentional deviance. Impulsive deviance would be something as simple as it's something that is done in a rage, and moments down the road the doer regrets the action. It could be something like simple as a mother returns home at the end of a very long and tiring day, and her grouchy 7-year-old daughter starts bugging her, and in a rage the mother just smacks her with a tablespoon. Well, okay, that is an impulsive act. But what is intentional deviance? Intentional deviance could be something as straightforward as a bunch of 7-foot men in intimidating postures could be sitting around a table and then planning and executing the global distribution of missiles and weapons with the stated noble intent of bringing order and peace into the world, where you can call that intentional deviance. So now you bring in yoga and meditation to it, the non-physical and the physical aspect of, is that the final one? No, give me 2 more minutes. Thank you. That is clearly intentional act. So the challenge here then is how to bring in self-control. That is, in sociology and social psychology, we say that the self is not present at the time of birth, but there is what we call a social development, a gradual development of the self. The mind at the time of birth is tabula rasa, it's a blank slate on which it gets written. Through rich continued social interactions, we achieve. So if we have a very positive self-concept, and then it becomes possible for the individual to interact in positive ways. And the social control theory, which says that both the inner containment, which is the positive self-concept, and the outer containment, one of which is an internalized belief systems which comes from outside. If the belief systems are positive, and if one develops a positive self-concept, the two together, they will be in sync. Such an individual can contribute to the sustenance of society. This is the point that I'm making here, that this is where the Upanishadic wisdom, as well as the benefits that all the scholars have talked about at great length from the practice of yoga, both the physical and non-physical, through meditation, dhyana. If these two together, they can come together, such an individual can contribute to world peace and order. However, the question remains, although the current trends globally are indeed favorable, because just to quote from Pew Research, we have statistical information that shows that over the last 20 years, the population in the United States are not 20% non-subscribers to organized religion. In 2010, or 2000, it was 10%, and by 2010 census, it is 20 and over 20. What that means is people are increasingly leaving organized religions in the West and moving towards spiritual search. That is a favorable environment. Of course, the challenge then is how to get, the last slide by the way, how to get the world to embrace nonviolence and the yoga's impact on the autonomic, not autonomous system. This is something to be considered, the involuntary realm, and how to regulate the rational mind to avoid parigraha, that is possession, a premeditated behavior. And I like to end with this quote by the historian Michael Woods, who, while talking about the documentary, The Story of India, he describes the transformation that occurred to Emperor Ashoka, and how he brought the concept of ahimsa into practice. The idea behind non-violence, or the idea behind vegetarianism, the way we understand it the most, away from the health benefits of good vegetarian diet, what is the real principle behind it? It's something very simple, I'm sure you all know, you can even correct me, that someone who is physically superior can effortlessly subdue someone who is physically inferior, weaker. What does it take for a physically superior being to subdue someone that is physically inferior? So, at what point will we cross the limit and go on to subduing members of our own kind? And historically, that's what we have seen, all the wars and conquests, the bloodshed that humanity has witnessed over many thousands of years. It is killing people. So, away from the other benefits of vegetarianism, I would say that this reason, that if we can appeal to human reason, perhaps it can have a more enduring impact and bring about social transformation. And so I leave you with this. Oops, sorry. That's my humble recommendation. Today we are celebrating the 4th International Yoga Day. Why not an International Vegetarian Day? If we can bring things to very concrete steps, perhaps the humanity, the average person can understand the reason better. What is the idea behind vegetarianism? Okay? It may be one small simple sacrifice for a non-vegetarian, but one big step for the entire mankind. Thank you.
Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pasyantu, ma kaschid dukbhag bhavet. Om Santi, Santi, Santi. Sometime in our life also, we just run towards a lot of things, but when we achieve it, we don't know what we have to do. So, firstly, so it is important thing. My topic is peace. So everyone desire the peace. Peace in the center of our life. Peace help us to reconnect with ourselves. It is important thing कि peace यानी कि जो शांति है वो हमको हमसे जोड़ती है, हमसे जोड़ने का प्रयास करती है, हमको जानने का प्रयास करती है. अभी मैं राधा कृष्णन जी से कल शाम को बात भी कर रहा था कि why this first international conference held in America. So, and America, what is the role of America? So, I just think about that कि when Swami Vivekanand came here and delivered a lecture in religion, so before that nobody knows about Swami Vivekanand, but after that everyone knows. तो अमेरिका ने क्या दिया? बहुत कुछ दिया. And last week I told my son about Indian Constitution. और मुझे आश्चर्य भी लगा और अच्छा भी लगा कि जो पहली लाइन है, We the people of India, it's taken by America, We the people of America. तो We the people of India, तो जहाँ तक हम देखें तो बहुत सारी चीज़ें यहाँ से ली गई हैं और मुझे जान के अच्छा भी लगा कि जो पहला है फर्स्ट इंटरनेशनल योगा वो भी अमेरिका में ही हो रहा है. तो मुझे लगता है इसका कुछ अच्छा ही रिजल्ट निकलेगा. हम बात कर रहे थे पीस की. अभी बहुत सारे ऐसी चीज़ें हैं. लास्ट डे वेस्टरडे हम जो कार से जा रहे थे तो मैंने देखा कि 3 दिन हो गए हमारा ड्राइवर है वो हॉर्न को यूज़ नहीं कर रहा है. मैंने उससे पूछा कि ऐसा क्यों होता है. हमारे यहाँ तो लगभग सभी लोग हर आफ्टर 1 मिनट दे यूज हॉर्न, है ना. दे डोंट यूज ब्रेक, दे यूज हॉर्न टू मेक साइन. सो कहता नहीं हमारे यहाँ ऐसा नहीं है. तो मेरा फ्रेंड से मैंने पूछा तो कहता है कि यहाँ के रूल्स बहुत कड़े हैं और जहाँ पे रूल्स कड़े होते हैं वहाँ पे कुछ अलग ही होता है और दैट्स वाई अमेरिका इज नंबर 1. तो मैंने कहा यस, एंड इन आल्सो इन योग सूत्र यम नियम एवरीथिंग इज देयर. सो अगर हम इन नियमों को बनाते हैं कड़ा, अमेरिका में बहुत कड़े नियम है और ये वर्ल्ड में नंबर 1 है, तो हम अपने लिए कड़े नियम क्यों नहीं बनाते? अगर बनाते तो हम भी नंबर 1 हो जाएंगे। लाइक महात्मा गांधी, he adopted 2 things, सत्य अहिंसा, ट्रूथ एंड नॉन वायलेंस, और उसके दम पे उन्होंने इंडिया को फ्री करा लिया। तो यहाँ पे जो 5 चीजें गई हैं, अहिंसा, सत्य, अस्तेय, ब्रह्मचर्य, अपरिग्रह, दे आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। अगर हम बात करते हैं कि इसको हम कैसे दिखाएं, मनसा वाचना कर्म, मनसा वाचा कर्मणा, मन, वचन और कर्म से, यानी कि हम जो भी कर्म करते हैं, व्हाट वी एक्ट फ्रॉम मॉर्निंग टिल नाइट, अगर वो सही है, सही ढंग से कर रहे हैं। एक छोटे से एग्जाम्पल से समझाने का प्रयास करता हूं कि एक छोटा सा बच्चा है, उसने कोई गलती किया तो हमने उसको मार दिया। कोई अपने बराबर का है तो हम कहते हैं उसको 2-4 बातें कह दिया, लेकिन अगर कोई बॉक्सर है तो कहते हैं कोई बात नहीं, कोई बात नहीं, लेकिन मन में उसको कुछ कहते हैं। तो नहीं, योग कहते हैं नहीं, तीनों पर ही आपका कंट्रोल होना चाहिए। यू हैव टू कंट्रोल ओवर दैट, मनसा वाचा कर्मणा, अहिंसा, यू अडॉप्ट नॉन वायलेंस इन ऑल दिस 3 एस्पेक्ट्स। अदरवाइज हम शरीर से तो नहीं कर रहे, हम सोचते हैं हम अहिंसा का पालन कर रहे हैं, बट मन में हमारे क्या चल रहा है। हमारे गुरुदेव उन्होंने कहा भी था कि थॉट रेवोल्यूशन इसलिए उन्होंने दिया, थॉट रेवोल्यूशन मतलब जो हम सोचते हैं उन विचारों को अच्छा करने का प्रयास करें। हमारे चांसलर सर जो कि हमारी यूनिवर्सिटी में हर थर्सडे को, हर बृहस्पतिवार को क्लासेस लेते हैं, इट टेक्स क्लास ऑन मेडिटेशन एंड आल्सो गीता, तो वो अक्सर ही कहते हैं, और उन्होंने एक बार हम लोग उनसे क्वेश्चन भी करते हैं, तो उनसे जब क्वेश्चन पूछा गया कि एवरीवन if we ask about yoga, everyone says just some asana or some pranayam, but this is not the real yoga. पतंजलि ने कहा नहीं, 5 इसके 8 अंग हैं, और 8 अंग में हम केवल 2 अंग पर ही रह जाते हैं। Only we discuss about some asanas and some pranayam and think that this is the real yoga. No, this is not the real yoga. The real yoga starts with yama. So I just discuss on that. The first step of Ashtanga yoga is yama. और यम के बारे में एक शिवानंद जी बहुत ही अच्छी बात कहते हैं, इफ़ यू वांट टू टेक अप MSc कोर्सेज यू विल हैव टू स्टार्ट फ्रॉम द इनफैक्ट स्टैंडर्ड, पास थ्रू द डिफरेंट स्टैंडर्ड्स एंड सो ऑन, एंड देन ओनली कैन यू इंटर इनटू द कॉलेज कोर्सेज। और हमारे यहाँ क्या होता है कि हम सीधे आसन से स्टार्ट करते हैं, यम नियम को भूल जाते हैं और सोचते हैं कि यस वी आर रियली डूइंग ए योगा, बट दिस इज नॉट रियल द योगा। सो बिफोर दैट वी स्टार्ट फ्रॉम यम। और यम में ये 5 चीज़ें बताई गई, सत्य, अस्तेय, अहिंसा, इसके बारे में काफ़ी कुछ डिस्कस हो चुका है और समय भी बहुत कम है, तो मैं थोड़ा जल्दी जल्दी करने का प्रयास करूंगा कि किस तरह से हम पीस को अपने जीवन में ला सकते हैं और लाने का प्रयास करते हैं। महात्मा गांधी जिन्होंने अपने जीवन में पूरा समय उन्होंने गुजार दिया सत्य और अहिंसा में, पंडित श्री राम शर्मा आचार्य गेव सोल्यूशन फॉर दैट कि एज एंड व्हेन एविल थॉट्स राइज इन योर माइंड क्रिएट एन आर्मी ऑफ गुड थॉट्स एंड सेंड देम टू फाइट अगेंस्ट द अपोनेंट। होता क्या है कि हमारे दिमाग में अक्सर बहुत से नकारात्मक विचार आते हैं और उसी में हम घूमते रहते हैं सुबह से शाम तक। छोटी छोटी सी बातें हैं जिनको हम संभाल नहीं पाते हैं, जिनके साथ हम अपने आप को एडजस्ट नहीं कर पाते हैं, और कई बार छोटी छोटी बातों को लेकर समस्याएं प्रारंभ हो जाती हैं। प्रथम विश्व युद्ध से लेकर सारे विश्व युद्ध की बात करें तो सब में छोटी छोटी ही बातें थे, और अगर हम इन छोटी छोटी बातों का समाधान कर लें तो निश्चित तौर पर हम परिवार में ही नहीं पूरे विश्व में शांति फैला सकते हैं। एक बहुत छोटी सी कहानी मुझे याद आती है। एक परिवार में 3 लोग हैं, हस्बैंड, वाइफ एंड 7-year-old डॉटर। सुबह का समय है, लगभग 7 बजे का समय है। जो फादर हैं उस बच्ची के, वो तैयार होके आते हैं, बैठे हैं सोफा में कोट पहन के और न्यूज़पेपर पढ़ रहे होते हैं। माँ जो कि किचन में खाना बना रही होती है अपनी बेटी को कहती है जाओ अपने पापा को चाय दे आओ। वो चाय लेके आती है, देने लगती है, अचानक उसका हाथ हिलता है, पापा के कोट पे चाय गिर जाती है, उनको गुस्सा आती है, बच्चे को जोर से मार देते हैं, वो रोने लगती है, और वहीं से कहते हैं कि तुमने इसको मैदा नहीं सिखाया, ठीक से चाय देना नहीं आता है, बड़ाई में लगते हैं। वो वाइफ जो कि किचन में खाना बना रही होती हैं वो तुरंत गैस ऑफ करती है, बच्ची को चुप कराने लगती है। तब तक बच्ची की बस आ जाती है, चूँकि बच्ची तैयार नहीं हुई होती है तो उसकी बस चली आती है, तो वो तेज़ी से कार लेके जाते हैं, लेट हो जाते हैं तो चपरासी उसको कहता है कि आप लेट हो गए, बच्ची को एंट्री नहीं दूंगा, किसी तरह रिक्वेस्ट करते हैं। ऑफिस में जाते हैं, चपरासी कहता है गुड मॉर्निंग, तो उसके ऊपर गुस्सा उतार देते हैं, कोई गुड मॉर्निंग नहीं, सुबह से नाश्ता तक नहीं मिला, झगड़ा अलग हो गया, कपड़े खराब हो गए, तुम गुड मॉर्निंग करो। दिन भर एकदम मूड अपसेट रहता है। शाम को आके देखते हैं तो पत्नी अभी भी कोप भवन में बैठी है। कोप भवन मीन्स शी वॉज वेरी अपसेट। तो किसी तरह मनाते हैं तो घर की कहानी चलती है। ऐसा अक्सर होता है। अब इसी कहानी को हम फिर से सुनते हैं। सुबह का समय 7 बजे का समय है, बच्ची चाय लेके आती है, चाय देती है, चाय गिर जाती है, कहता है कोई बात नहीं बेटा, तू दूसरी चाय लेके आ, मैं फटाफट जाता हूँ कपड़े बदल के आता हूँ। जाते हैं फटाफट कपड़ा बदल के आते हैं, बच्ची की बस आ जाती है, दोनों उसको बस में बैठाते हैं, बाय करते हैं, ऑफिस में जाते हैं। चपरासी कहता है गुड मॉर्निंग, कहता है मेरी तो रोज़ गुड मॉर्निंग होती है। शाम का समय होता है, घर पे आते तो घर का माहौल कैसा था? अच्छा था। क्यों? एक घटना है चाय का गिरना जिस पे कंट्रोल नहीं था, बाकी सब पे कंट्रोल किसका है? हमारा, ऑब्वियसली। और सुबह से शाम तक हम 99% को नहीं संभालते, 1% है उस पर हम ध्यान ही नहीं देते। तो अगर हम ऐसा करते हैं तो बहुत सारी समस्याओं को हम सॉल्व भी कर सकते हैं। ये हमारे ऊपर है। हम बात करते हैं बार बार शांति की, शांति की, शांति की, शांति चारों तरफ होनी चाहिए, कहाँ से होगी? अरे स्टार्ट तो हमसे होगी। लेकिन नहीं, हम सुधरेंगे, युग सुधरेगा, लेकिन होता क्या है, हम नहीं सुधरेंगे, बाकी सब सुधरें और सोचते हैं सारी समस्याओं का समाधान हो जाएगा। तो दिस इज द बेसिक प्रॉब्लम। इसको दूर करने के लिए स्टार्ट वहीं से है, जैसा कि सर बता रहे थे, सिंपल लिविंग एंड हाई थिंकिंग। यस, मैं आपको बता दूं कि पूरे ऑल ओवर वर्ल्ड में गायत्री परिवार के लगभग 10 करोड़ से ज़्यादा फॉलोवर हैं और उसमें मैक्सिमम लोग हैं जो इस प्रिंसिपल को फॉलो करते हैं। यहाँ भी कुछ लोग हैं और रियली हम लोग भी उसी से फॉलो करते हैं और उसी को बिलोंग करते हैं। हम लोगों ने अपने जीवन में उतारा पाया कि बहुत कुछ चीज़ें इसके द्वारा हम अपने आप में ला सकते हैं, पा सकते हैं। छोटी छोटी चीज़ें हैं, बहुत बड़ी चीज़ों को लाने की ज़रूरत नहीं है। छोटे छोटे कुछ प्रिंसिपल हैं, उसको अगर हम अपने अंदर अडॉप्ट करें तो रियली हम अपने अंदर चेंज कर सकते हैं। ये पंडित श्री राम शर्माचार्य जिनके बारे में इससे पहले स्पीकर ने बताया भी था कि उन्होंने कई हजार किताबें लिखी, तो अभी कुछ लोग पूछते हैं भी कि उन्होंने इतनी किताबें कैसे लिखी होंगी। तो बताएं कि उनका शुरू से लेकर आखिर तक का बहुत ही संयमित जीवन था। लगभग 80 वर्ष की उम्र तक वो जिए। उनका एक ही क्रम था, रात में 8 बजे सोते थे तो 8 से 12 बजे तक तो सोते थे, 12 बजे के बाद उठ के 12 से 4 बजे तक मेडिटेशन करते थे, फ्रेश होते थे, सब कुछ करते थे। उसके बाद 7 बजे से लेकर 9-10 बजे तक लगातार लिखते रहते थे। उनके आप वीडियो फोटोग्राफ्स भी देख सकते हैं कि लोग जब उनसे मिलने जाते थे तो लिखते रहते थे और लोग अपनी समस्या लेके आते थे। उनके हैंड्स नोट हैं, उसमें आप देखेंगे कि कोई उनके पास आया कि मेरी बेटी की शादी नहीं हुई तो कहते हैं मैं गायत्री मात्रा से प्रार्थना करूंगा, और उनको उस पर लिख भी देते थे कि इसकी बेटी की शादी होनी है, इसको ये समस्या है, सब कुछ लिखते भी रहते थे और इसके अलावा वो किताब भी लिखते रहते थे। इस तरह से उन्होंने 3200 किताबें लिखी। उन्होंने कहा कि मैंने अपने जीवन का एक भी क्षण बर्बाद नहीं किया। सो इट डिपेंड ऑन यू कि हम क्या करते हैं, कैसे करते हैं। हम अपने आप को बेहतर भी बना सकते हैं और हम अपने आप को समय को बर्बाद करके बहुत आगे भी जा सकते हैं। एक बहुत ही अच्छी कहानी है बुद्ध की कि समस्याएं क्यों आती हैं और इसका निराकरण कैसे हो सकता है। महात्मा बुद्ध जब भी सड़क से गुजरते थे, एक बार एक आदमी उनसे नाराज था, वो उनको रोज अपशब्द बोलता। बुद्ध मुस्कुरा के चले जाते। तो एक दिन की बात है, काफ़ी दिनों के बाद वह आदमी उनसे पूछता कि मैं आपको इतनी सारी बातें कहता हूँ तो आप बुरा क्यों नहीं मानते। उन्होंने कहा ओके, मैं अगर तुमको एक फलों की टोकरी दूं और तुम उसको नहीं रखो तो क्या होगा, तो आपके पास ही रहेगी। तो उन्होंने कहा ठीक है, इसी तरह से जो तुम मुझे अपशब्द बोलते हो मैं उसको एक्सेप्ट नहीं करता। किसके पास रहेगा? नेचुरली तुम्हारे पास रहेगा। और हम लोग क्या करते हैं, ढूंढ ढूंढ के इकट्ठे करते हैं, वी कलेक्ट ऑल द थिंग्स और सुबह से शाम तक उसी के बारे में सोचते रहते हैं, उसने ऐसा कहा, उसने ऐसा कहा, उसने ऐसा कहा। तो कैसे पीस आएगी? पीस यानी कि शांति तभी आएगी जब हम उसको अपने भीतर धारण करें और इन विचारों को मानने का प्रयास करें। तो अंत में मैं इसी के साथ अपनी बात को कंक्लूड करूंगा कि जो महर्षि ने जो सिद्धांत बताए हैं, अहिंसा, सत्य, अस्तेय, ब्रह्मचर्य और अपरिग्रह, उसे अगर हम जीवन में उतार लें, बहुत बड़े बड़े सूत्र नहीं है, बहुत छोटे छोटे सूत्र हैं, थोड़े से ही शुरुआत करें। होता क्या है कि हम बड़े बड़े संकल्प लेते हैं, सीधे ही हम भगवान बुद्ध बनने का प्रयास करते हैं। लास्ट टाइम एक आदमी मुझसे पूछता है कि हम भगवान बुद्ध क्यों नहीं बन पाते हैं, है ना, सभी के अंदर डिजायर तो होती है, क्यों नहीं बन पाते हैं। मैंने कहा कि हम आते तो हैं बुद्ध बनने के लिए, तो उसमें एक नीचे मात्रा होती है, उस मात्रा को हटा देते हैं, बद्ध हो जाते हैं, संसार की सब चीज़ें उससे बच जाते हैं। और कुछ लोग क्या करते हैं, बुद्ध के पास एक और मात्रा लगाते हैं, बुद्धू हो जाते हैं। सो क्या बनने आए थे और क्या बन गए। कबीरदास जी बड़ा अच्छा कहते हैं, आए थे हरिभजन को, ओटन लगे कपास। तो हम अगर इस चीज़ों को फॉलो करें तो निश्चित रूप से हम पीस को अपने भीतर भी धारण कर सकते हैं और चारों तरफ शांति फैला सकते हैं। इसी के साथ मैं अपनी बात को समाप्त करता हूँ। नमस्कार, धन्यवाद।